The Planetside Battles ServerSmash tournament is drawing to a close of its first successful running. 4 servers from the US and Europe battled it out over 6 weeks for bragging rights, and in the end, only 2 remain standing to fight for the championship. The European server Cobalt and the US East Coast server Emerald. In this episode, I'm going to showcase several of the top plays from the tournament, break down the overall strategic picture with a former Force commander, and KidRiot will join us to detail specific tactics likely to be used by the individual players fighting in the upcoming match. I'm Redolent, and this is a special championship preview edition of Why We Play.
Mods west.
Alright, engage. Multiple contacts. Max. 2, 3 squads.
Heavy contacts inside the triple.
One squad, roger that.
2 heavies.
1 guy on point, 2 guys on point.
Okay. He's down.
Copy that, right?
Max down.
They've got infantry and full escort.
Cobalt comes into the championship with the most wins in all ServerSmash events at 5. They are also the only server to have won as all 3 empires. Yet most people view Cobalt as the underdog coming into this match, partially due to the fearsome reputation Emerald has earned going undefeated in the tournament itself. Lemgarr, the leader of Aegis Initiative, a Vanu outfit on Emerald, was Force lead for Emerald's second team for 2 matches in this tournament. Lem is here to give us a Force commander's view of ServerSmash, the overall strategic perspective of the match. He breaks down the overall strategies each server must focus on to achieve victory in this episode's Keys to Success.
Hello Redolent, so here are my thoughts of both having faced Cobalt and knowing Emerald. My first key to success for Cobalt is to apply their ability to make bold moves right at the start. In the Esamir match against Emerald, they committed multiple platoons to try and cap Rime Analytics, a small 1-point base, not one of the usual big bases like a tech plant. This forced Emerald to play defensively almost immediately. More impressively, once they felt they couldn't get the cap in a timely manner, their contingency plan kicked in. They smartly had trading galaxies in a position near ISA tech plant and redeployed well over 100 troops within seconds to guarantee the cap in their favour. Another important point will be in making the most of the Scythe. Playing as VS has many infantry strengths, but the slow speed of the VS ESF means that Emerald will get to the distant points quicker than Cobalt can. Cobalt have a mixed history on getting out of the warp gate expeditiously at the start, as seen in their last Amrish game, so they need to be sure they get it right for the final. Third has to be aggressiveness. ServerSmash is all about capping bases, and every second counts. Cobalt have shown in the past that they can aggressively save a base with only seconds to spare, but ultimately ServerSmash is an endurance challenge. For 2 hours, Cobalt's leadership will need to keep nearly 300 people motivated to push forward as hard as they can, even if they feel outnumbered. Finally, and possibly most importantly for Cobalt, is simply this: trust. Cobalt need to trust their leadership. ServerSmash is the ultimate expression of teamwork. Managing 288 volunteers for a competitive event requires everyone to be on the same page, from the lone infiltrator to the platoon leads. Following orders and being where you're expected to be is critical. Only the Force Command knows the whole picture. Have faith in them. So those are my 4 considerations for Cobalt, but what about Emerald? My first key to success for Emerald is simple: attack. The best defense is a good offense. If it worked for General Sun Tzu 3,000 years ago, you bet it will work in Planetside too. However, implementing this simple philosophy isn't as easy as it may seem. Communication and effective use of forces is paramount. Expect Emerald to use their skirmishing squads with military precision. The second key for Emerald is their ability to stem Cobalt's air affecting the ground game. Emerald has invested a lot of time in refining their air squads and have demonstrated with great effect that they can take control of the skies. However, the ground forces will need to be prepared to be self-sufficient and to work with no hard spawns should Cobalt's infamous airball prevail. Third will be in the creative use of force multipliers. There simply is no such thing as overkill in ServerSmash. Emerald, on live, has been known to get everyone in a platoon to pull a Sunderer and shield defuse into an amp station where it is physically impossible to get to the point. They also have the fiercest harasser outfits in the game. Ikus have gained a lot of attention in previous smashes by pulling off the most audacious vehicle plays. The final will be no exception. My fourth and final key to success for Emerald is to play the long game and preserve resources. Emerald are the masters of forcing their enemies to spend big on maxes on those last minute saves. Likewise, Emerald needs to make sure they aren't spending resources unnecessarily and saving what they can for the second half of the match. In the last Smash, we saw how wisely Emerald can recycle their maxes while infantry beacon forward to the next base. Expect to see a lot of this. So, to conclude my thoughts, both Cobalt and Emerald have an excellent chance to win the Smash, although perhaps the greatest game changer will be in which team can best adapt to the recent anti-vehicle grenade nerf. Those last second saves have suddenly become much, much harder.
A huge part of succeeding in ServerSmash is the strategic planning and cooperation at the highest levels of leadership in a server. But what about the 287 players who aren't just staring at the map? What are some of the things that the boots on the ground can do to help their server to win? KidRiot, a staple of the PlanetSide 2 competitive community, is here to go over the specific tactics that individual players and squads will use to secure victory in Squad Drop.
Holy mother of God! That's a lot of maxes! This is a mega max crash going on a construction site beta. The NC sees this on the minimap, but the problem is there are 4 Sunders all with Furies. Here goes grenade!
Hey everybody, this is KidRiot, and today we're going to be talking about stuff like this. 40 seconds left, an amazing push by Connery, tons of resources invested, you had multiple Sunders on point, tons of infantry, and Connery was still able to push and capture this. So we obviously know why this happens, right? You secure the base, you keep pushing forward. But how does this happen, and how can you stop it as a squad leader? In a fight like ServerSmash, one of the most effective things a squad leader can do isn't typically what they would do in a live server. It isn't so much about squad composition. It isn't so much about, you know, telling you guys, hey, we got to go here, we got to do this. It's actually communication. Communicating to your platoon leader so that they can communicate with their respective force commanders or air leads to make sure that everybody's working together. Essentially, you want the right hand to know what the left hand is doing, and that starts with the squad leader. There is nobody else, you know, even among the various squad leaders, who has a more important part to play in regards to communication than a squad leader. Now, why is that? And we're going to talk within the context. Here we are at NT Arsenal, the neutral, one of the most important neutral bases at the start of the Emerge fight. Now, your teams are going to come from their respective warp gates. And what happens at NT Arsenal, and obviously every base is unique in, as far as, you know, battle flow and how they play out, it's always a fight to see who can secure this vehicle pad and get Sunderers out, right? So whoever's able to get Sunderers and control the localized spawns, keep them up, put pressure on points, is going to win this fight. Now, there are some cases that may not happen, like say if your galaxies are able to reinforce directly from above, but for the most part, it's always about pressure and numbers and timing. As a squad leader, how can you affect that? Say you only have 12 people in your squad in a platoon of 4 squads within, you know, a force size of 288. And the answer is simple. Like I was saying, communicate effectively with your teammates, your squad, and with your platoon leader so that everybody knows what they need to be doing at all times. And it isn't even, what am I going to do now as a squad leader? You know, I'm in this room. Do we hold for the breach? Do we get aggressive and push out of the building and try and kill enemy Sunderers? No, it's what do I have to be doing 5 minutes from now? And like you saw in the video, and it's almost come to be like an accepted fact of ServerSmash, is that as the time counts down, that there are going to be redeployments. Sometimes in the case like in the video, massive redeployments. And you know, there's jokes about redeploy side, but it's one of those things where it's almost taken for granted. When you know that's going to happen, that's when you, as a squad leader, communicate to your platoon leader and say, hey, there's going to be massive redeployments coming from the spawns. Can we get some air over here to suppress and kill everybody coming out? And if you can do that, you make not only your job easier, but your air is effective. You know, your infantry has an easier time. They're able to get, you know, a little more aggressive on their positioning instead of being too defensive. Because if you are too defensive and if you are holed up in one of these buildings with no localized spawns, it's only a matter of time, as we've all seen, that you're going to get overrun. And you never want to be in that situation. So like I said, communicate effectively, be at the right place at the right time, and make sure that you're putting more pressure on the enemy than they are pushing on you. Because if anything, especially in PlanetSide 2, your aggressor is always going to win. And whoever's fastest and whoever responds the fastest is going to win. So always be Johnny on the spot and pushing your squad to their limits and communicating effectively with your leaders to make sure that everybody knows what's going on at all times. You essentially want to lift that fog of war of not knowing what's happening or what's coming. And if you can do that, then your leaders can make more intelligent decisions and put you in a place where it's just like, you know, shooting fish in a barrel. Now in the south you have Tumas Tech Plant. It's adjoining hexes, and this to me, especially from the perspective of a squad leader, is one of the funnest fights in the game. Now why is that? Typically the team coming from the east will dictate or dedicate some forces to go to Tumas cargo facility, which is the right thing to do. You need to get your cap and you need to get, you know, pushing onto the Tumas Tech Plant, which gives you a huge advantage in the south. Now what the really good teams do is send some of their better players to the enemy hex to buy time. The longer you're able to put pressure on the enemy hex and not allow them to cap their hex, the easier a time your teams will have coming into Tumas and essentially get a free cap. And that leads actually to the next point, and that is using your squads, especially, you know, in the from the perspective of a squad leader, to its maximum effectiveness. Now what we've seen play out, especially on this point, is that the enemy team will come in here, put 12, you know, put a squad to 2 squads of players on point and defend, and essentially be a major thorn in the side of the enemy. And so essentially you have even forces dedicated to Tumas cargo facility, but what happens is this little squad and on this point puts so much pressure on the enemy that they have to call in more and more numbers, and that does multiple things. One, it pulls numbers from potentially other fights and you force them to focus on you, which relieves pressure from your entire team. 2, it's frustrating, and I can't tell you how frustrating it is. I mean, I'm sure we've all been there where you're in a fight and nothing feels like it's going your way, and you almost feel like, you know, what can we do? So you get in people's heads, and morale, if anything, plays a huge role in a ServerSmash. It's almost like a rolling tide that comes across. But in the form of small squads, it's really effective, and I think it's one of those things that we've seen play out, that if you make the enemy feel like they are outnumbered or like they aren't gaining any ground, then you've done your job. And you could see it in the form of when people try and breach rooms, they'll come in single file or they'll come in 2 and 3 instead of, you know, being patient and coming in like a coordinated force. So the more you're able to get into the enemy's heads by having your people at the right place at the right time, having a good squad composition, communicating with your air effectively so that you are like one fist hammering down, and, you know, demoralizing the enemy team, it's huge. It's almost, you can't even quantify how important that is. Essentially, you know, everything will start to tick in your favor. Your team starts to get more kills. You see that feed going up in the ServerSmash cast. You see, you know, points coming in for your team, and it's gonna go until the team can no longer hold. So even as a squad leader, you have a huge role in how the ServerSmash plays out. Even though there are 288 people on your team, the more effective you are as a squad leader, the more you're able to put, like I said, pressure on the enemy team. You know, the easier job you'll have for your platoon leaders and everybody else. So just keep your head together, keep communicating, keep all your players together and moving as a force, and you'll have a hell of a time. Well, I would say a hell of a good time, but the enemy's going to have a hell of a bad time. That's it for me, guys. Enjoy the ServerSmash. I'm sure it's going to be a good one.
A lot of amazing moments came out of this tourney, from the sheer spectacle of 200 aircraft flying out of the warp gate to the exhilaration of a last-moment base resecure. These are the top 5 plays from 2014's ServerSmash tournament. We start off in the second week, with Cobalt facing Connery in the continent of Ambush. NC Arsenal is a linchpin 3 capture point base that starts off neutral in the north of the map. Winning the opening fight here gives a server a distinct advantage over the top 3 lanes, and so both servers had some impressive plays to try and gain an edge. Connery dropped an anti-vehicle squad out of ejection seat sides to lay mines on the road and set up a Lancer nest, both of which played havoc with Cobalt's large armor pull from Sungray Westgate. In the end, Cobalt proved more tenacious, slowly pushing Connery's anti-armor players off their hills, and getting a crucial spawn sunderer tucked in behind the buildings to allow fast respawns.
Connery is trying to get them A. Cobalt just needs to hold on for 20 seconds. This is huge. The fact is Connery needs to get this point and they can stall this base out so much longer. Cobalt gets it, it is a massive positional play in the north. And it doesn't look like there's enough infantry for Connery. Cobalt gets the base.
Sometimes bases are won after a single enemy mistake. Other times it takes more than a bit of luck turning your way. Miller almost gave away Tumas Tech Plant for free after failing to repair the blown SCU generator when capping the base early in their match against Emerald. They redeployed forces for a last-minute resecure of the SCU room to try and avoid disaster, but Emerald moved behind them back onto the point for a last-minute showdown.
25 seconds to go. Here comes Miller up the balcony. Here come the Maxes. Most of the consumables have already been used by these Emerald forces. 19 seconds to go. Miller's going up to the balcony. Why are those Maxes going up to the balcony? With 10 seconds to go, you need to get on the capture point, son. What's going on? 10 seconds. 9. What is Miller doing? Get on the point. Okay, here finally they're on the point, but 3 seconds to go. There's too many Emeralds. Is Emerald going to get the base? 1 second to go. Emerald gets the base. I do not believe it. That was a huge blunder by Miller. What were they doing? They had this base.
ServerSmash victories often come down to the appropriate use of force at the right base and the right time in the game. The next top play is a classic example of feinting for one base and capturing another in return when the enemy moves to counter. Connery has a well-known affinity for attacking tech plants, and it looked like it was in effect again halfway through their match with Miller. However, Connery quickly redistributed their players when Miller came in force to kick them out of the tech plant, and wound up capturing Watterson's Redemption, their real objective, practically without a fight.
Oh, look at that. There's 48 to 96 new conglomerate Miller forces at the tech plant. That is almost criminal. Criminal. There's so many NC that is a tech plant. And what's going on Watterson's Redemption? They've lost it. 20 seconds. I do not see how the Miller force can save Watterson's Redemption. They need to get 2 capture points in the next 15 seconds. They're just watching all the angles as they're coming out the spawn rooms. And that's it. Well done to Connery. They have managed to take Watterson's Redemption.
Emerald has become known in their brief time together in ServerSmash as a server with many different tactics at their disposal. One both Emerald teams are great at is small squad harassment action. In the Emerald vs Cobalt match on Ezimir, a squad of only 7 people from the D117 outfit were absolutely tenacious in their dedication to keep Matherson's Triumph under contention against a much larger force. While Emerald never captured the base, keeping the timer moving in their direction prevented Cobalt from pushing into the weak Rime Analytics lane and deep into enemy territory. This constant harassment by a very small group of players forced Cobalt to spend resources and large amounts of troops against a small squad, and was a substantial reason Emerald won the match.
Okay, now they've spawned in. I was going to say the numbers were kind of lying the situation. Here comes the Galaxies, but there's still an Emerald Air Force in the skies. Oh, but there comes Cobalt's Air Force as well.
This is an incredibly dangerous
It's a critical amount of seconds. It gets exponentially quick at the very, very end. Okay, it's back to 2 minutes 40, but they have to hold on to the A point. Okay, look at the number of reinforcements that are coming on the map. That is a very, very large force of Cobalt's NC now here on the base. And okay, it was close, but I do not see... No, that's it, it's game over.
The #1 play for the ServerSmash tournament was part of a furious assault that Miller engineered in the middle of their final tournament match against Cobalt. An outnumbered Miller force manages to capture Gurney Dam despite having no secure spawns and being constantly hammered by Cobalt Air, and then moments later saves their ownership of Construction Site Beta with only a second to spare.
Gurney Dam, 20 seconds to go. Even with air support, it looks like Miller's gonna get this.
Miller is just now flipping the point at Beta.
Really? Oh wow, we're coming there as soon as the space flips.
Cobalt has...
Wow, Miller takes Gurney Dam. I can't believe it. Okay, we're at construction beta. Oh, 15 seconds to go, and it looks like this is going to be a Cobalt base. What's all the lightnings doing? You're not kidding! What the hell?
Yeah, there's a lot of fighting on the point. If Miller can just get more people in here...
Oh, it's flipping again?
Taking out the shotgun harasser, though.
Oh, okay, it's res grenade wards going off. It's so close. Miller needs to get bodies on the floor. The Cobalt still has control of the capture point. Is this Sunder going to come in? Are people going to spawn the Sunder? Are they on the point? Miller's back on the point again. It's razor close. I think Miller might have just gotten away with it. Alright, let me show you all these vehicles, guys. What is going on here? I heard you needed some. It's like the lightning sales depot.
Unfortunately, Miller's aggression wasn't enough to prevail in the game, but their constant assaults kept Cobalt guessing late into the match, making for one of the closest and most back-and-forth server smashes ever. That wraps up this episode of Why We Play. The ServerSmash Championship begins Saturday, November 8th at 21 UTC on the Jaeger server. Coverage begins at 20:30 UTC live on twitch.tv/PlanetSideBattles. Head to planetsidebattles.org or reddit.com/r/ServerSmash for more information and details on other upcoming PlanetSide Battles events. Thanks for watching.